Hey everybody all across rural Alberta. How are you? Happy don't you love that song, man? You know what's funny though? I like that song, but I like the other one. I like the one before. Small towns, big dreams, right? It's a great song. Hey everybody, how are you? Happy Friday! Becoming a community builder. Ignite the fire. Ian Hill, happy to have you. From Grand Prairie to High River. We got Chestermere, Vermilion, Bonnieville, Stony Plain, and we got little communities in those regions as well. And I got to make sure when I say Bonnieville, I say the MD in Cold Lake. And I got to make sure when I say Stony Plain, I say Parkland County. So we don't upset anybody, Jeff. Can't upset anybody. Well, what are we doing today? We're kicking it off, man. 15 weeks of comprehensive leadership training to help you go out and make your community a better place to live. We're building rural Alberta one leader at a time. So what are we doing today? Today we're getting it on. We got to start. We got to start. Now before we start, I got to thank a couple people. First thing I got to do is thank my organization. What? Yeah, The Changing Point. The Changing Point is the major supporter of this initiative. And so first of all, I got to thank the Minister of Finance. Well, didn't that used to be Jim Flaherty and now we got the other guy? No. The Minister of Finance is Gina Hill. So first we got to thank Gina Hill, right? Then we got to thank Yvonne. And then we got to thank Stephanie. And then we got to thank Jeff Fast and Jeff Dudley and Keith. We got to thank those people for all their efforts and their time and their energy. And those of you that haven't interacted with them, you will. They'll support you over the next 15 weeks. Then we got to make sure we thank all of the local sponsors. So we put in the major support, and then the local sponsors all put in a little bit. And then combining to allow you to participate in the program at no cost. Right? Isn't that cool? And you saw their logos, you know, each one of the, in that little pre-roll beforehand, each one of the local sponsors, you saw their logos. So if you saw pictures of your community and you saw that your local sponsors, thank them. Thank them. Well, how much do they have to put in? Well, $7,500 was split amongst all those local sponsors. And so thank them for the time and the energy and the money they put in. And then finally, you better thank your local committee. You see, there was an application process. We had 52 expressions of interest. And from those 52 expressions of interest, we selected 6 communities or areas or regions that would be awarded this Becoming a Community Builder opportunity. And we literally have 1,000 participants, or more. I don't know where we're at now. People are registering all morning. Pretty amazing, right? And I want to give a big shout out to Grand Prairie. They've got over 300, Jeff, over 300 registrants. That's amazing. Well done. Now, on the registration piece, you can continue to register. You can continue to register, and people will continue to register. So I know that you're in the Chamber of Commerce office. I know you're at the Newcomers office. I know that you're at the Legion Hall. I know you're at the library. I know you're at the Community Health Center. I know you're at all these various different locations. And I know some of you are even at your private offices or your private businesses, or some of you are watching on Sunday. Even though we're live right now on Friday, some of you are sitting in your robe on Sunday. And do me a favor there, Bob. Close up your robe. Okay, man? Close up your robe. All right. So what are we doing? We're launching something that has not been done before. This initiative has never been tried before, where we allow every citizen of the community to access comprehensive leadership training. But it begs the question, why? Now, hopefully you've got your handouts. Sound guy hates when I do that. Hopefully you have your handouts. And I want to start with just going through why. If you don't know the why of something, then you don't understand its desired outcome. And everybody talks a lot about hows, but they rarely talk about the why. So I want to start off this morning by talking about the why. Why are we doing this program? Because if you don't understand the why of the program, you won't understand anything that happens for the next 15 weeks. You won't understand the model. You won't understand anything. You won't understand the crazy things that come out of my mouth or the exercises or any of it. unless you truly understand the why. We're trying to find a solution to a problem. You see, we believe that communities like yours are relevant in the 21st century. We believe that for Canada to reach its full potential, communities like yours must be vibrant and thriving. But we also know that communities like yours, your size, your distance, your place, your uniqueness, have challenges, like all do. Now look, I've been in 200, well, close to 300 now, 300 communities across Canada in the last 4 or 5 years. I've been from Belle Island, Newfoundland to Port Alberni, BC, from Yellowknife to Crystal Beach, and all points in between. And in Alberta specifically, I've been in some 90 communities. And there's people looking for answers of how do you build a thriving, vibrant community in the 21st century? How do you do that? And actually, there's billions of dollars being spent. How do you combat apathy? How do you combat outmigration? How do you integrate new people into the community? And whether new means from Newfoundland or new means from Manila or Mumbai. How do we take on the challenges of drugs and alcohol, ignorance, and abuse? How do we do these things? The problems are so multifaceted, so complex. And no one entity, no one person, they're not going to take on those challenges. Literally billions of dollars trying to figure out how do you keep a community like yours thriving in the 21st century. Well, I believe that we have an answer. I believe we've landed on an answer. And the answer is you. You're the answer. I believe that the answer is community leadership capacity. Now, how have I come to that answer? Well, first of all, in my own experience, I was at one point just a local guy, business guy, started a school and started a rec center and then another school and another rec center, and then and the next thing I know, I was helping make the community a better place to live. Not because I was very smart. I barely graduated from grade 12. Not the sharpest pencil in the box, not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but much like you, I just cared. I cared. And then I saw other people doing the same thing. And so it dawned on me, maybe the local leader was the key. The informal local leader was the key. But then that was reinforced as my wife and I started the Let Them Be Kids initiative across Canada. 161 playground projects, skate parks, fitness parks. We saw all over again. We saw other people who were cut out of the same mold as you and I, who wanted to build a better community. And so they were willing to put in time, and they were willing to put in talent, and they were willing to put in treasure. And I saw it over and over and over again, making a significant difference. And that's when it really started to just solidify in my head that you were the key, the informal leader. And where community leadership capacity was high. Well, what does that even mean? Well, look on your handouts. Write this down. Put right on your handouts. Community leadership capacity is leadership excellence in every corner, every nook, every cranny, every silo of the community. When there's high community leadership capacity, great things happen. Oh, you mean the formal leaders, the elected officials? No, I don't mean that. I mean the guy who runs minor hockey. I mean the people that volunteer at their place of faith. I mean the lady that runs the Girl Guides. I mean the people who are the informal leaders in town. When they know how to lead, great things happen. And you've seen it. You've been it probably. But what happens? What happens is that we take and we use the Superman or Superwoman strategy. What does that mean? That means that somebody in town gets on fire about something, and then we ride their coattails till we burn them out. Right, Jeff? We ride their coattails till we burn them out. And then the community plateaus or even dips, and then we hope for someone else to come along, Superman or Superwoman, who gets on fire, rallies everybody, and then we move forward. And then we dip. And then it's unsustainable. Community leadership capacity. In the 300 or so communities I've been in, where community leadership capacity is high, great things happen. There's greater collaboration. Where community leadership is high, there's innovative ideas. When community leadership is high, community leadership capacity is high, you see incredible problem solving. Where community leadership capacity is high, people get things done. It's cheaper and it sustains longer. So we said to ourselves, you are the answer. We must raise the community leadership capacity. And we also believed, and more than ever before, that the people closest to the problem are the answer to the problem. You see, you understand your town. You understand your community. You understand it. You've forgotten more about your town. You've forgotten more about Bonneville than I'll ever know. You've forgotten more about Stony Plain than I'll ever know in Parkland County. You've forgotten more about High River or Vermilion or Chestermere or Grand Prairie and the surrounding area. You've forgotten more about it than I'll ever know. It's not somebody far, far away. It's you. Now let's talk about that very practically. If you're a business owner, you got to let that employee. They've got the operational insight. They've got the vocational expertise. They've got a PhD, 10,000 hours in that work. Well, many of you, most of you have 10,000 hours. That's a PhD. You've got a PhD of knowledge in your town. So if you were going to solve problems, who would you turn to? You would turn to people who have the operational insight and vocational expertise. That's you. And that's me. When I was doing the schools and the philanthropic projects and all that kind of stuff. So the informal leader is the key because they're the closest to the problem. They get things done. They make things happen. Community leadership capacity. In other words, when all of those people are utilizing the leadership approaches that times require, great things happen. But there's one more piece of this recipe of the solution. It's alignment. Alignment. Let me draw you. Come over to this camera, Jeff. Let me draw you. Well, yeah, there we go. This is the stated mission of your community. This is the stated mission of your community. Within that stated mission of your community, oftentimes this is what's happening. Oftentimes this is what's happening. Oftentimes it's what's happening. So you look at the stated mission. The challenge is that we're headed this way and people got their own agenda or people got their own ideas. Now here's the funny thing. This group right here, they're actually flying or driving to Edmonton or Calgary and getting awards. They're actually getting awards for their work. They're great at what they do in their little sector, in their little silo. They're awesome. The problem is they're not going with anybody else. The problem is they're not working with anybody else. The problem is they're not letting anybody else use their building or whatever it might be. So that's the challenge. Now, have you ever had your back out of alignment? Have you ever had your back out of alignment? And how did it feel for you? Well, it hurt. Have you ever had your car out of alignment? Yeah, it costs. Well, I would suggest to you that communities get out of alignment. Communities get out of alignment. And when communities get out of alignment, it hurts. You ever been in that meeting? It's like swimming through mud. When communities are out of alignment, it hurts and it costs a heck of a lot more to get anything done. Well, so what should it be like? I'll tell you, it should be just like this. Stated mission of a community. And it looks something like this. Everybody understands the goal. Everybody understands their role. Everybody understands what winning looks like. That community alignment is key. In the 300 plus communities I've been in, the community alignment was key. And when you have the community alignment, problems get solved. When you have the community alignment, resources get maximized. Where you have the community alignment, things get done. Citizens aren't apathetic. You know, no wonder people are apathetic. Who wants to be a part of this? You ever sat in this meeting? Nobody wants to be a part of this. But people will get on board with this. The challenge is your community this or is your community that? Now here's the funny thing. It used to be easier. We have to do a little exploration of history. It used to be easier for this. It used to be easier for this because, first of all, we all look the same. We all talk the same. We all worship the same way. We all ate the same food. So alignment was more likely. Also, our survival was at stake. So alignment was even more likely. So I'd get in alignment with you if I worshiped the way you did, or if I talked the way you did, if I ate what you ate, if we were all in the same clan or tribe or village for generations. But then as we got more and more sophisticated, or maybe even more and more diverse, we didn't have those inherent pieces that would help us stay in alignment. Plus, we start to get really sophisticated and we think we don't need other people. So all of a sudden, this is more likely than this. Here's a simple question. Let me pull this over here. So here's a simple question. Do you think your community is in alignment? Well, yeah, the mayor. Well, yeah, the formal leader. It's not the mayor and it's not the formal leader. We all just agreed the key to a community is the informal leaders. I've been in a lot of communities where the formal leaders couldn't work their way out of a paper bag. But it was the informal leaders in the business community, the informal leaders in the social profit sector, the informal leaders of the community that made the community go. When they were in alignment, when the business community, when the faith community, the social profit, the seniors, the kids, when they were in alignment, they overcome any shortcomings of the formal leaders. Informal leadership is key. Community leadership capacity is key. And community alignment is key. It's key. These ingredients are key. So what does it boil down to? It boils down to you. So I said to myself, we got to make an all-out commitment to developing you. Because if we make an all-out commitment to developing you, you'll turn around and go do great things in your community. And then I said, is there historical precedent for this? Historical precedent. And you know what I found? All legacy societies had formal ways, whether it was within the religion or within the culture, they had formal ways for raising up leaders. All you have to do is look at our First Nations brothers and sisters. All you have to do is look at ancient Greece. All you have to do is look at our Hebrew brothers and sisters, or our Asian brothers and sisters and their cultures. And you know what you find? There were formal ways to develop leaders. And whether you called it discipleship or mentorship or hanging out with the elders, whatever you called it, they knew. You know why? I'll use the words of a guy I met the other day. You know what he said? Because their societies were at stake. And they knew they had to prepare people to take the leadership role. And they didn't leave it to chance. And how do we do it today? You know what, Jeff? Today, we leave it to chance. If you got $4,000, then you can go to the Banff Leadership School. Or if you got $1,500 extra, you can make 5 easy payments to Anthony Robbins. What the hell? Come on. So I said to myself, we left that behind. As we got more and more sophisticated, we left behind a key ingredient to keep creating a thriving community. And that was, you got to develop leaders. And you got to remove barriers to the participation of that development. So that's why we're doing this. We're trying to prove that you're the answer. We're trying to prove that when a group, a community makes when a group, an organization, or community makes an all-out commitment to the development of informal leaders, amazing things happen. Amazing things happen. Now, that's not a political statement, okay, guys? That's about looking at life and saying, what's the best model? And the best model is, let the people closest to the problem solve their problem. Community leadership capacity is the key. The informal leaders make things happen and get everybody in alignment. But that takes skill. That takes skill. That takes leadership skill. Now look, we're going to try today to reframe what you call leadership. And over the next 15 weeks, we're going to try to instill the competencies that we've found to be effective today. What do you mean we've found? How did you figure that out? How about 180, 190, 200 projects all across the world, primarily 161 of them in Canada. And before you, 25,000 people using the curriculum before we said it's good enough to take and try this approach. So this whole thing is to prove that you're the answer. But you know what? If you don't go do something, Jeff, if you and I don't go make the world a better place, then I was wrong. Then I failed, and we failed. But I'll take that risk. I have no problem taking that risk. So now you understand why. And now the rest of it will make sense. Trying to prove that you and I are the answer by making an all-out commitment to your leadership development and my leadership development. And the result should be that you and I go out and make our home, family, make our organization, or make our community better tomorrow than it was yesterday. Well, you're not going to solve global warming, and you're not going to take care of the crisis, Middle East crisis. No, that is true. The majority of us, you and I, the majority of us do not possess the greatness to bend history itself. That's true. But you can handle your corner of the world. And I can handle my corner of the world. So you handle your little corner of Bonneville in the social profit sector. And you handle your little corner of the world in the business sector in Grand Prairie. And you handle your little corner of the world in the governmental sector in Stony Plain and Parkland County. And you handle your little corner of the world, Mr. Senior, sunset of your life. You handle your little corner of the world there in Vermilion. And you, Mr. or Miss Public Servant, you handle your little corner of the world in High River. And the cumulative effect of all of us handling our little corner of the world will be a better world. Final thought on this why. I believe that Alberta has the opportunity to be the Athens of the 21st century. I believe, much like Athens of ancient Greece, Alberta could define history. Athens is the birthplace of democracy. Athens was the birthplace of a society as we know it today. Athens was the birthplace of arts and culture, mathematics, and the like. So much of what we are in Western society came from that city-state. Well, I believe the ingredients are present in Alberta as they were in Athens. Now, I'm sorry that you might not have the faith for that. I'm sorry that you might not have the vision for that. I'm sorry that you've become crusty and jaded. How many of you know somebody crusty and jaded? Do not make eye contact with anybody in the room. Don't make eye contact. I'm casting a vision, it's true, because I think it could be a reality. More natural resources that can last 5 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes. Talent pouring in from all over the world. Prominent. And this is key, a DNA. Alberta has a DNA, a find a way, make a way DNA. It has a proven track record of doing things that have never been done before throughout its history and even before it was a formal geopolitical entity. And that's why my bet is on Alberta and your community to be a beacon of hope to other communities who are desperately looking for hope. Now you know the why. You say, Ian, you took 23 minutes to tell us the why? Yeah. Yeah. You know what? The why always is more important than the how. It's the why that gets people to give their time, talent, and treasure. So if you're an informal leader of a board of directors, you're an informal leader of an organization, you're a formal leader of a company or a community, you listen to that. The why is always key. Write that down. If you want to get the best of people's time, talent, and treasure today, the why is key. So now you know why. Now let's turn the page quickly and talk about the how. So if we were going to achieve those lofty goals, we knew it would not be easy. Now we're 100% committed. I hope you're 100% committed to proving what I just talked about. And along the way, you're going to get new tools and new skills, and you're going to be better at the end than you were at the beginning. I guarantee it. You do this program, I mean really do it, you will be better at the end than you were at the beginning. Promise. But it won't be easy. There was a great Italian philosopher that said, nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to attempt, and more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. A new order of things is always difficult. Think about when you try to introduce a new order of things at your house, right, with your kids. is difficult, let alone in society. So we knew we had to create a model that would help you be better tomorrow than you were yesterday. So quickly, I'm just going to review the model. Now, hopefully you watched the orientation video and read the materials so you're prepared. But for those who are not, for those that did, a quick recap. For those that are not, a quick introduction. Those that did not, a quick introduction. What can you expect from us? You can expect from us a comprehensive, robust leadership development program that's based on a change continuum. What does that mean? 80% of your behavior is unconscious. Now, this is really important. Clue in. 80% of your behavior is unconscious. You're just doing it. 80% of your leadership behavior, you just do. Now, maybe you learned it from your grandfather. Maybe you learned it from a coach. Maybe you learned it from your first boss or your mom or your uncle or whoever. But trust me, 80% of your leadership approach is unconscious. So if we wanted to introduce some new concepts and some new skills and some new ideas and some new tools, we had to take your old leadership approach that may or may not be effective in today's new age, and we had to introduce. And somehow we got to get you to change your behavior to the new way, because you're the informal leaders that are going to build the communities that will be a beacon of hope around the globe. So we had to make sure that the learning model was sound. So this whole thing is based on 21 days to establish a habit. What does that mean? That means you're not just going to sit in this chair wherever you're sitting right now and watch, even if you're sitting at home watching the archive. That means that we had to have some kind of way to help you change your behavior. Look, you've heard the books and the tape, you read the book, you've heard the tapes, you've read the books. You've gone to the workshops. And within 7 to 10 days, that information is gone. So we had to introduce a model that would actually give you a fighting chance to change your behavior. If you always do what you've always done, if you always get what you've always got. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. So if we wanted to really help you, we would provide a learning model that allowed you to have a fighting chance to change. So it's all based on 21 days to establish a habit. So on the next page, it walks you through all the science. I won't bore you with it. But the simplicity is, today we introduce some concepts, and then for 3 weeks we're going to reinforce them. And then we'll introduce a new concept, and then 3 weeks, and then a new concept, and a new concept, 3 weeks at a time. To solidify the concept and the tools within those concepts so you can go and deploy them. What are you going to teach? Well, we're going to teach it through a blended learning approach. Some of you learn by seeing, some of you by hearing, some of you by writing, some of you by talking. So we're going to have all of those modalities in play to give you a fighting chance to assimilate the information. We're going to teach some competencies. Competencies, what's a competency? A competency is a complex set of skills, attributes, attitudes, qualities that make you good at a thing. Thing is a scientific term. A thing. Like if you wanted to operate a front-end loader, there's certain competencies. If you were a jewel cutter, there's certain competencies. Well, we're talking about leadership competencies. Let me draw it real quick. So most of us are pretty competent when it comes to our vocation. Vocational, there we go. Vocational competency. But we're talking about leadership competency. Because it takes leadership for this to happen. Leadership competency, a complex set of attitudes, skills, attributes, and qualities that make you good at a thing. So that's what we're going to teach you. Leadership competencies that have been vetted through some 100 and almost 200 projects, some 25,000 people, all sectors, all silos, all across North America, as far away as Lismore, Australia. And you're not the first group in Alberta. We're up to 4% of rural Albertans. So, competencies. Agent of change, big picture systems thinker, catalyst for responsibility, commitment to continuous improvement. Those are the 4 competencies. Well, you said 5. Ignite the fire. Why is it called Ignite the Fire? Because inertia is in play. the physical law of motion that says this: something in place tends to stay in place. Something on a certain trajectory tends to stay on that trajectory, unless we have a force that is applied that's greater than the one that's being applied right now. So over the next 3 weeks, we're going to ignite the fire. Think the space shuttle down in the States. Do you know it has to overcome inertia? And it takes about 87% of its energy to overcome inertia. That's why community projects don't get off the ground. But stop and think about it. In just like 3 weeks, we've registered 1,200 people, whatever it is, in 6 communities. And in Grand Prairie specifically, we've registered over 300 in a very, very short period of time. We ignite the fire. So we've got to teach you how to do that as well. And we're going to teach you how to do that by igniting the fire within you. I know it sounds trite. I know it sounds silly. But think about inertia and overcoming it. And think about the inertia that's in play in your community. And that's why by equipping 150, 160, 200 of you or more all at once, we're going to overcome that inertia. All right. What do we expect from you? 1, give your best. How much time? 15 minutes a day. I will do all I can to keep this to 15 minutes. If you just are willing to put in 15 minutes a day, a little bit at a time, you should make it through. Now, write this down in some white space. No guilt. Write down no guilt. No, seriously, write down no guilt. See, you can take this program linearly, like some of you are doing, or you can take it at your own pace. You can't get behind. No guilt. So just give your best. If you have time, put it in. If you don't, it'll still be here when you get back here on the learning portal. Everything will be archived. This broadcast will be up in 2 hours. It'll be there in 2 hours, waiting for you. Do the assignments. I'll try to keep them brief. There won't be too many, but the ones that are there are for a reason and are profound. If you'll do them. Be coachable. I haven't done it yet, but I will respond to every single one of you. All of you that, when you registered, or all of you sent in your 3 questions, it'll take me some time. There's a lot of people, but I will personally respond to all of you. So if I give you some advice, I give you some suggestions, be coachable. Put what we talk about into practice, and then finally make a commitment. What? Yeah, in about week 6, I'm going to ask you to make a commitment of what you're going to do to better yourself. Or what are you going to do to better your family, or your business, or your organization, or the community as a whole? Yeah, commitment. You're getting this thing for free. So you're going to make a written commitment that will just be between you and I. You and I. But if I'm going to put in 15 weeks of my life into you, you can make a commitment of what you're going to get better at. Now think about it. 150 people make a commitment in one town, and then they all follow through on that commitment over a 9-week period. 6 weeks in and then 9 weeks. Great things are going to happen. And we've seen big and small commitments. Could be very personal or it could be community. I don't care. But you're going to make a commitment. Side note, I'm not implying that you're broken. I'm not. I'm not implying that you're not great at whatever you do. You probably are. But you don't need to be sick to get better. You don't need to be sick to get better. All right, turn 2 pages, right? You can read that green page on your own. Read that green page on your own if you want to learn the science of how this thing works. Now let's get into some, so we've got why, we got some how. Now let's get into some meaty side of this. I would suggest to you that the approaches of leadership of the past will not work today. I agree with the great business guru Peter F. Drucker. Drucker said that every couple hundred years, society rearranges itself. And the society that the grandparents knew is completely different than the society the grandchildren know. You see, he called it a time of transformation. Wouldn't you agree with me we're in a time of transformation? I would suggest to you that life is at least fundamentally different than I remember as a kid. And I'm not just talking about, your phone. That's not what I'm just talking about. I'm talking about life is different. I think you would agree with me. By show of hands. Show of hands. How many of you agree with me we're in a time of transformation? I can see you. I can't see you. If we're in a time of transformation, wouldn't it make sense that the leadership approaches we've used in the past probably won't be effective today? Wouldn't that make sense, Jeff? Would that mean that we're bad people? That wouldn't mean that we're bad people. Does it mean we're dumb? It doesn't mean we're dumb. It just means we woke up one morning and the world went like this. Shwang! That's the international sound for what the hell just happened? The world changed. Let's talk quickly about how the world has changed, because see, you can't lead unless you understand the context that you're leading in. Leadership is no longer some guy or gal on a horse saying, follow me. The autocratic leadership approach is dead. It will not work. It will not get the best from people. But why? You know that and I know that, but why? Because things have changed. How have things changed? And I want you to write these down. Well, first of all, we're in a user-driven society. See, you can't get more volunteers in your nonprofit if you don't understand we're in a user-driven society. If you're an elected official watching right now, you can't get people off their big fat couch. You thought I was going to say something else. You can't get people off their big fat couch and get them involved in the community if you don't understand user-driven. And if you're a business owner, you won't get them buy into what you're doing and become loyal to your brand or loyal to your business if you don't get user-driven. We're in a user-driven society. Think about it. Almost every institution that you interface with gives you a say or gives you the feeling that you have a say. There was a day not so long ago that at 4:59 this afternoon, we'd be scrambling to get to the, not happy hour, the bank. Because if the bank hit 5 o'clock, we couldn't get our money for the weekend. And so we had to get to the bank. Now we can access our money anytime, any place, anywhere. Hell, we can email money now. It's amazing. Or this technology, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Vine, all of them, user-driven. They allow the user to dictate the experience. When we talk about recruiting and retaining volunteers later in the coming weeks, when we talk about maximizing the performance of employees, when we talk about how to get our seniors and our youth engaged in the community, we're going to talk more about this user-driven concept, but it's a fundamental change. Or how about this? How about the family unit? How about participation in our places of faith, our service clubs, and the like? The institutions that we used to be able to count on to build a sense of community, to build community connectiveness, or to teach civic responsibility, those institutions, they're fractionalized at best. At best. How about this one? Would you agree with me? People are less trusting than ever before in our lifetime. Less trusting. And whether it was because they can see tragedies instantaneously, 2 big planes flying into 2 big buildings, or they can see tragic natural disasters, or whatever. We live these in real time. People are less trusting. I've just given you a few ways that things have changed. And if we had more time, I could give you another 20 more. But the fact of the matter is, we are living in a changed context. But Drucker said, don't be surprised. It happens every couple hundred years in Western society and in Western history. Well, then it begs the question, are the leadership approaches I'm using the ones the times require? There was a time that I could threaten you and you'd go to work and you wouldn't talk back to me. You'd say, yes, boss, whatever you say, boss. Today, that won't fly, especially in Alberta. They'll go get another job like that. So, times have changed. The authority is not what it used to be. Respect is not what it used to be. Pride is not what it used to be. And I'm not making a value judgment. I'm just saying things have changed. And you know it and I know it. So ask yourself, are the leadership approaches I'm using the ones the times require? What do the times require? I think the times require what I'll call a community builder. Now I've listed some things, but I want you to make some notes as we launch this 15 weeks, this community builder. It's a concept of attributes and qualities and skills, competencies is what we'll teach. But first you got to have the big picture of this community builder. The community builder knows how to unleash human capital by marshaling it. The community builder gets people's permission to lead them attitudinally. The community builder marshals human capital. Now, what's human capital? Well, how about love? That's a form of human capital. How about innovation? That's a form of human capital. How about pride? That's a form of human capital. How about creativity? That's a form of human capital. How about sweat? That's a form of human capital. Do you know how to take the creativity, the ingenuity, the sweat, the pride, the love, the care, the emotion? Do you know how to take that of the people that are around you and marshal it towards a common goal? Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to take a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, with a lot of different talents, experience, and interests, and point them towards a common goal? Not demand them towards a common goal, not manipulate them towards a common goal, not cajole them to the common goal, not threaten them to the common goal. Marshal them. Marshal them to the common goal. The community builder exerts influence by building trusting relationships. Write this down. It's all about trust today. You don't make a purchasing decision unless you trust that decision. You go look for 5 smiley faces. You trust 5 smiley faces more than you trust the experts because you think the 5 smiley faces are put in there by people that you can trust. Every multinational corporation is trying to get you to think, trying to get you to believe that you can trust them. So how do you build trust today? Well, we're going to teach you how you build trust with a bunch of different people, with a bunch of different backgrounds, with a bunch of different talents, experience, and interests. And it is through that trust that you've built, then you exert influence. There's no other way to exert influence today, in my opinion, not real influence. You can't marshal human capital without being able to build the trusting relationships. The community builder is a systems thinker. They create systems that lead to greater alignment. Systems and processes. The whole world is a system, and we'll teach you systems thinking and how to create systems. A system for recruiting and retaining volunteers. A system for performance management of your employees. A system for delegation and motivation. How about this? A system for maximizing the utilization of your own time. A system for developing community pride and individual pride. Systems. Systems are force multipliers. They allow you to do more with less. A community builder inspires, doesn't require. Because we don't want people that require anymore. We want people that inspire us to give our best. Community builders tap into the collective intelligence and energy of stakeholders by acting as a catalyst. They realize they can't get everything done, and they have a way of pulling the best ideas out, prioritizing those ideas, and then implementing the best of the ideas. I'll show you how to do that. They innovate while others are stuck in outdated thinking. Worn out slogans and tired old dogmas will not take on the challenges of today. The question is, do you know how to come up with a good idea? Do you have a process or a system for coming up with a good idea? And do you know how to bring out a bunch of good ideas from the people that you hang out with, work with, live with, do community with? Community builders are authentic. They're sincere. They're honest, and they're direct. And that's what we long for today out of our leaders, don't we? They're known as people who genuinely care for others. They genuinely care for others. That's the kind of leader we want to follow today. That's the kind of leader we'd be willing to give our time, talent, and treasure. Someone who's authentic, sincere, and genuine. All right, turn the page. Turn the page. The challenge is that you have a leadership approach today that either organically was created or was intentionally, through education or life experience, developed. You have a leadership approach. I just described to you what we've found through experience, research, and endeavor to be the most effective leadership approach. So here's your current leadership approach. Here's the leadership approach we found through experience, the doing of, study, and endeavor to be the best today. Here you are, here's the ideal or the best practices. If you see that some of what I described isn't in your current toolkit, somehow we've got to change. Somehow we've got to get you across that gap. That's why we've built the learning model the way we have. The challenge is we don't like change. The challenge is when the world went schwang and you woke up, you didn't know how to change. Most of us don't have a process to change. Most of us aren't able to adjust, adapt, overcome, because we were never taught how. I think that progress and change are indelibly intertwined. There can be no progress without change. But most of us don't know how to do it. Let me make it more visual for you. Make it visual for you. Watch. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals what? Without going to your smartphone. Well, this way. We got to set that camera up a little bit different next time. 10. That's what it equals, 10. If I want the answer to be 11, what has to happen? Something has to change. But here's what we normally do. 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. And we all high five as we walk out of the meeting. Great meeting, but then we still get 10. And then we go 2 plus 1 plus 4 plus 3. Yeah, awesome meeting. And we still get 10. What's your point? Nothing changes. And the same is probably true in your life. Nothing changes. Nothing changes because you don't understand the basic fundamentals of change. The basic fundamentals of change. You don't have a system. You try to change instead of train to change. Why is that important? This sounds like a self-help thing. It is to an extent, but it's more important than that. There's certain leadership approaches that you've been using that were developed or organically grew up, but they probably are for a time gone by. There's certain leadership competencies that are necessary today. Somehow you've got to change. Does that make sense, Jeff? Somehow you got to change because you're the key to us building a thriving community. And if you don't understand what the leadership approaches the times require are, if you're not utilizing them and deploying them, then our communities won't move forward. Change. Why are we reluctant to change? Well, it's funny. Einstein, smartest guy to ever live, some people say, he said, everything within me was only enough to get me to where I'm at today. If I want to go any further, if I want to be any better, something's going to have to change. So we know we need to change, but we usually don't know how. Why? What's the attitudinal barrier? Well, it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. We don't want to go out of our comfort zone. It's scary. There's fear. Or we got on board with a change before, like somebody texted me and they said, I'm kind of cynical about this whole thing. I hope it's true, but I'm cynical. You know why they're cynical? Because they believed in something and it let them down. You know why they're apathetic? Other people are apathetic because they believed in something and it didn't work out. They tried something and it failed. So I don't think they're negative. I'm empathetic. But progress and change are indelibly intertwined. There can be no progress without change. I want you to write down, and the last thing, and we only got about 11, 12 minutes left. I want you to write down in that last, it says, list the name of 3 people whose lives would be better if you changed one thing. I'm dead serious. Whose life would be better if you changed? Mayor. Whose life would be better if you changed? MLA. Whose life would be better if you changed? General manager. Now, you think I'm attacking the formal leaders? Okay, how about this? Whose life would be better if you changed? FCSS coordinator. Whose life would be better if you changed? Chamber executive director. Whose life would be better if you changed? Head of the yachting club in Chestermere? I guess it's Calgary Yachting Club. Yeah. Whose life would be better if you changed? Dad, mom, pastor, cleric, rabbi. Whose life would be better if you were willing to pick out one thing and do it a little bit better tomorrow than it was yesterday? Whose life would be better? So yeah, there's all those barriers to changing, but on the other side of changing, on the other side of doing a little bit better tomorrow than you did yesterday is somebody's life who would be positively impacted. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. If you're not completely satisfied with your life, if you're not completely satisfied with your organization or business, if you're not completely satisfied with your community, and you want a different answer, then something has to change. And you can't just rearrange the numbers. Something has to change. Now on Monday, it's the beauty of the way we do this. I don't have to cover everything today. On Monday, look at this sheet right here. On Monday, I'm going to send you a short video. That short video is going to give you what I call the change continuum, a process for personal change. It'll walk through willingness, education, understanding, action, accountability, and analysis. A formula for personal change. A tried and true formula. Yes, we came up with it, but a tried and true formula that thousands have used. That when someone points out a deficiency in their performance, they can change. When they want to acquire a new skill, they can change. When the world wakes up one day and swang, they can change. They can adapt and overcome. There is no safety and security in staying the same. There's only safety and security in being able to adapt and overcome. And if you really are the key to building a thriving community, then you must be able to adapt and overcome. I'm not talking about your principles and values. Not changing those. Your style, your approach, the tools, the skills you deploy. That's what I'm talking about. When you know that you've got to acquire a new skill, how do you change? When you know you've got to shift a way you do something, how do you change? I'm going to give you a way on Monday morning. That's why it's so important that you create your username and password and all that so we can send you that email on Monday morning. It'll be 6 to 8 minutes long. Check it out. It'll always be under 15 minutes, but I try to keep them even shorter than that because you're busy. So you'll get that change continuum on Monday morning. Check it out. That's the point of emphasis next week, the change continuum. Now look, before we can go on a journey, before we can go on this journey, I have to stop the bus. There's 2 more things we're going to do and then we're done. Before we can go on this journey, I must stop the bus because some of you are cynical. Some of you are jaded. Some of you are crusty. Some of you, when I say what I'm about to say, will think I'm ridiculous. Optimism is a strategy for economic development. Optimism is a strategy for community development. Optimism is a strategy for social development. Optimism is a strategy for personal development. Why? Because if I don't have the capacity to see tomorrow being better than it was yesterday, it is highly unlikely that I will take the steps to make it so. If I don't have the ability and capacity to see tomorrow being better than it was yesterday, it is highly unlikely that I will take the steps to make it so. Therefore, as we begin this journey, I must knock off a little bit of the crustiness. I must knock off a little bit of the jadedness. I must wash off a little bit of the cynicism. Now, I know how it got there. Because let down, kicked around, beat up, took love, gave it to another human being, trashed it in front of your face. I get all that. And I'm empathetic to that. You got on board with something and found out it was a joke or a lie. Or you gave your all to something and it didn't come to fruition. Or you've tried over and over again and the negativity of the town has just beaten the hell out of you. Or you stood up in a public meeting and people attacked you for wanting to do something good. They questioned your intentions and your motives. They'd lied about you. I get it. When I opened the school for the pregnant moms, they said I wasn't smart enough to open a school. In the paper, because I didn't have an education. You don't think my little 10-year-old girl who's now 23, you don't think she cried that day? I get it. I understand why you'd be jaded and crusty. But if we don't have the capacity to see tomorrow being better than it was yesterday, it won't be. Optimism is a strategy. So let me remind you who you are. It's a great part of a book by Og Mandino. I'm just going to pick out some pieces of it, but you take the time to read it. you take the time to read who you are and why my bet is on you. Throughout the course of history, we've seen people like you do great things. Why? I'll tell you why. Because there's thousands of receptors, millions of receptors in your eye. You can do things that we can't even recreate it. In your brain, every thought, every word, everything you've ever experienced is in there. With your ears, you can hear even a leaf, the wind through the trees, or somebody say, I love you. Your eyes can also see the pain and the plight of your fellow human being. Your ears can also hear the cry and the pain of your fellow man. Do you know that the muscles and the bones within you can move at your beck and call? You're not stuck in one place. There's enough energy within you to light a small city. Your skin protects you better than any bank can protect gold. 70 billion people have lived on this planet, and there's nobody like you, and there's never been anybody like you, and there'll never be anybody like you. Oh, this is namby-pamby crap. Really? If you don't understand the human potential, if you don't understand the human capacity, if you don't believe in its potential and capacity, how are you ever going to marshal human capital? How are you ever going to believe in this arrow and that they have something to offer the community? How are you ever going to believe in that arrow and believe that they have anything to offer your organization, your business, or your nonprofit? You must believe in the human capacity if you're going to lead today. 70 billion people have lived on the planet. There's nobody like you. Never been, never will be. You could even write this word down, priceless. You're a priceless treasure. And I would suggest you to lead today, you must see that about yourself, and you must see that about every human being you come in contact with. Otherwise, how are you ever going to tap into their talent if you can't see it? How are you going to tap into their experience if you don't value it? How are you going to tap into their unique life experience, background, talents, interests, if you don't appreciate it? Optimism is a strategy. So take an inventory of who you are as we begin this journey. You see, part of igniting the fire is looking introspectively within ourselves to get our hearts and our minds ready to learn. I can't teach you unless over this next 3 weeks, or I can't take information and lay it at your feet. I can't teach you anything. I can't take information and lay it at your feet if you don't wash off some of that stuff. So take an inventory of who you are. You're priceless. Turn the page. Well, I signed up for this so I could learn some tools. You'll get plenty of freaking tools, dude. You'll get more tools than you could ever assimilate in 15 weeks. That's why we leave this in your community, so you can do it over the next 6 months. But before we take that journey, you got to get your heart and mind ready. It's like tilling the ground, baby. All you farmers, you got to till the ground. Not this week, but the following week on Monday, a week from this coming Monday, you're going to get an email. In that email, I'm going to ask you to do this exercise, this leadership history survey. We're almost done. All you people antsy, we're almost done. This leadership history survey, this 6 questions. Because I want you to look introspectively within yourself to look and see, how did I become the leader I am today? See, I call it looking back to move forward. Looking back to move forward. You can't move forward until you know where you're at. It's kind of like going to West Edmonton Mall. You ever been to West Edmonton Mall? I've been to West Edmonton Mall. My kids love West Edmonton Mall. There's a little X on the big sign, and that sign says you are here. That sign, that map would be useless unless we knew where we were at. So this looking back to move forward helps us figure out, how did we become the leader we are today? Now, it's only 6 questions, so what do I want you to do? When I send you that email, it won't be next week, it'll be the following week, just 1 question a day. Remember, 15 minutes a day. 1 question a day. And at the end of that week in our coaching session, I'll talk about what that could mean. I'll talk about what that could mean. How did you become the leader that you are today? The life experiences, the mentorship, the good, or maybe the bad, are the leadership approaches you're using that times require. And how did you become the leader you are today? So that exercise is coming. All right, final thought. Now, what was today meant to do? Today was meant to explain the why, give you some insight in the how, hopefully get you to thoughtfully consider that times have changed and it requires a new leadership approach, and then to hopefully get you to thoughtfully consider that you've got to have a process for changing, which we'll introduce to you on Monday. That 6 to 8 minute video on Monday. And then finally, start to look within yourself about the talent, the ability, and the capacity you have, and start to look at others with the talent, ability, and capacity they have, so you can marshal and align human capital. As a final thought, I want you to look at these 5 questions. Not today, and not in the next 2 weeks, but in 3 weeks, right? Every week we have something. In 3 weeks, I'm going to send you an email. And in that email, it's going to ask you to answer these 5 questions. But I'd like to review them as we wrap up today. I think they're the most urgent questions that you can ask yourself as a leader today. When I recapped the qualities that I've found to be effective in a leader in the 21st century, and the qualities that I find that most people are looking for in a leader, one of those, or all of those, spoke to these 5 questions. That's why I think the leaders that will be successful today have questions like these in the forefront of their mind each and every day. That's why I call them life's 5 most urgent questions. Let's quickly review them. What will be my greatest contributions to my family? What will be my greatest contributions to those that I've served? What will be my greatest contribution to those that I've led? What will be my greatest contribution to my organization? What will be my greatest contribution to my society or community? What do you notice about those questions? You notice that they start inside out. You notice that they're all about what I'll do for others, not for myself. You'll notice that they become a lighthouse for me. Point to my daily activity, my weekly activity. They become who I am and the legacy that I'll leave. I swear to you, as sure as I'm sitting here, we long for leaders that will embody the manifestation of these questions. Leaders that say intentionally and proactively, I'm going to leave this behind for my family. I'm going to leave this behind for these people and those people and the people that I serve and that I lead and my community as a whole. Why is your family lucky to have you as the mom or the dad? Why is your employees lucky to have you as the boss? Why are your volunteers lucky to have you as the chairman of the board? Why are the people lucky to have you as the mayor? So much of my life, I've experienced a society that's narcissistic and only cares about what it will get for themselves. That is an unsustainable model and has proven itself to be flawed and ineffective. We need leaders that will think this way. So in 3 weeks, actually 2 weeks from Monday, not this Monday, not the following Monday, but the following Monday, I'm going to send you this in an email. I'm going to ask you to tell me, just between me and you, what your thoughts are on these questions. Well, we've come to the end of our time together. I know we went 3 minutes long. I apologize. I'll try not to do that in the future. I'm very mindful of your time. Monday morning, you're going to get an email from us. That email is going to talk about the change continuum. You exhibit certain leadership approaches. There's certain leadership approaches the times require. You've got to have some way to change. I'm going to give you a way to change on Monday morning. And that'll be the point of emphasis next week, the change continuum. I thank you for being involved. I thank you to the committees, the local committees. Thank you to the local sponsors. Thank you to my team who's sponsoring this. Thank you. And thank you personally for being a part. So noble and so honorable that you're willing to put in 15 weeks of your life to get better, to go build a better community. Take care, everybody.
There comes a moment when my heart must stand alone on this